Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Athletics Town Hall, Still Climbing. My name is Sharita Freeman, the Director of Athletics at Lafayette, and I'm very excited to kick off this wonderful event today. A progress report and update on the strategic plan we launched 2 years ago, almost to the day. When I arrived on College Hill 2.5 years ago, I did so knowing that Lafayette College had the potential to be one of the best in the Patriot League, and that its leadership, alumni, and community were eager for progress and ready to contribute to the creation of a championship culture. I'd like to thank all of the participants on the call today for your interest in hearing about how Lafayette Athletics is doing on its quest to climb the hill. I am happy to be joined today by President Allison Byerly and Vice President for Campus Life, Annette Diorio. It's also great to see with us today our Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Bob Sell, members of the AD's Circle, Maroon Club President, Bill Tucker, who will be moderating our Q&A session, and other members of the college's cabinet and leadership. Over the next hour, it is our hope to articulate the improvements that have been made in athletics and convey the magnitude of the support we receive as we embark on a path to create a championship culture. I've had the tremendous pleasure to work with some amazing people at Lafayette. President Byerly's leadership, as well as the support from members of cabinet, are part of the reasons for our success. Athletic success will come from an institutional effort, and I truly believe we have alignment in our values and our strategic direction to make that happen. It is my pleasure to introduce the President of Lafayette College, Allison Byerly.
Thank you very much, Sharita, and welcome to everybody. It's wonderful to see such a good crowd gathered here. We all wish we could gather on campus, of course, but one of the advantages of Zoom is it does allow you to get people from all over the country and all over the world in one place. And so we're very, very pleased that so many of you have chosen to spend a little of your Friday afternoon with us. You know, I think that when I look at the success that we've had over the last several years in athletics and the role of Sharita's strategic plan, you know, it reminds me that it really is a reflection of the centrality of athletics to the Lafayette experience, that there has been so much support and such strong support for the plan. You know, we are very proud to be part of a league that really emphasizes the value of the student athlete model, where students are athletes and successful on the playing field, but they're also wonderful students who are getting a fantastic education. That's certainly something that we feel even more strongly at a moment like this, when many of our students are not able to be on the playing field right now. They're still getting a wonderful education from Lafayette, and we look forward to their being back on the field soon. And so as we think about what it means to be a student athlete at Lafayette College, we recognize that it is a way to connect students with the generations of alumni who have come before them. It's a way to bring positive visibility to the college, and it is a way to create a more engaging campus experience for the entire community. And certainly that is what we rely upon during the year, the ways in which the excitement and the energy really builds around a lot of our major athletic contests. You know, there's a lot that I could say, and because our time is short, I won't say much about the challenges of this year, except to say, of course, they've been particularly challenging for athletics, and we very much appreciate the flexibility of all of the coaches, the student athletes, and the athletics department, you know, in sort of working with a really unusual set of circumstances. One of my roles at the moment, in addition to being president of Lafayette College, is I am head of the Council of Presidents of the Patriot League. And so I have the pleasure of convening the Patriot League presidents on a regular basis to talk about what our planning is for the future. And one of the things I can tell you is that everyone feels, as strongly as I know you all do, that we would love to see our student athletes resume the kind of experience that has been so important to their time at Lafayette. As you know, that there are still lots of decisions ahead as we look to the spring and what may be possible there. We have a Patriot League Presidents meeting coming up in the next week or so. There will be some continuing conversations over the course of the fall as we think about all of the sports that lie ahead. what some potential competition schedules might be, what will be possible in, when we get to the spring season, and all of the ways in which we think about combining the importance of that experience, with the need, of course, to keep the safety and health of our community in the forefront. And so it's been a complicated time, but it's a time when I've been very, very impressed by the goodwill, the energy, the positivity that all of the coaches and the student athletes have been bringing to the experience. If you followed some of them on social media, you've seen that they're training hard, they're working hard, and nothing will get them down. So I think they're all doing great. Another thing I think it's important to recognize at this moment is that, as Sharita says, it's 2 years since the start of the athletic strategic plan. It's a great moment, even in spite of the pause that's been enforced on us, to take a look at what we've accomplished. And you'll hear more about that from Sharita and from others. But I can tell you that as president, I am extraordinarily proud of the advances that we've made over the last couple of years. I think that though I've enjoyed every Lafayette-Lehigh game, last year's definitely was a highlight of my time here. And one of the things I'm also particularly appreciative of is the support and the dedication that so many members of the Maroon Club have brought, that so many of our athletic supporters have brought. I certainly want to thank Bill Tucker for his leadership of the Maroon Club and for hosting this event today. We are so fortunate at Lafayette to have the kind of commitment in the parent, alumni, and friend of Lafayette community that really allows us to get through some difficult times as well as get through some good times. We've been very fortunate in having continuing strong donor support. That's been very critical to our ability to manage through this crisis. And I want to mention, in case you hadn't noticed it, there was an announcement earlier this week regarding a significant leadership gift from Bill Buck, class of 1950, and his wife, Laura. We are so grateful and appreciative of their generosity and support of the athletics program, and certainly want to thank them for their unflagging support, not only of the college, but of Lafayette athletics. So with that, I think I will move right along because I know there are lots of questions, and I want to introduce Vice President Annette Diorio to say a few words herself. Annette.
Thank you, Allison. Sharita assumed the helm of our athletics department and was immediately tasked with fast-tracking a 5-year strategic plan. Just 7 months into her first year, in the fall of 2018, we announced the launch of that plan with a core focus of creating a championship culture. In 2019, Lafayette Athletics had the best fall season in 25 years. And although the spring season was cut short by the global pandemic, Lafayette had jumped 6 places in the Patriot League President's Cup standings. As President Byerly just mentioned, Sharita has a strong team around her. And I'm sure, like me, you enjoyed watching the videos of students working from home and coaches keeping the energy up all throughout the spring semester, and perhaps even caught sight of the athletic staff Olympics that really kind of bonded our student athletes and kept them engaged throughout the spring semester when they were away from campus. Of course, we're eagerly looking forward to all of our students returning. Most of you probably know that Sharita was honored recently by Women Leaders in College Sports Organization as the Division I FCS Nike Administrator of the Year. I was honored to be a presenter, and I'm confident that I join everyone on this call in being proud of this wonderful and well-deserved accomplishment. Sharita leads others to join her in culture change, and what we are beginning to see are the manifestations of her vision for what a championship culture is.
Our resurrection began 3 years ago.
We recognized we weren't where we needed to be or believed we should be, and needed change. We competed, fought, clawed our way up the Patriot League standings.
A tremendous job of representing Lafayette and themselves.
Keep climbing that mountain.
We put in a plan focusing on creating a championship culture. That fight continues today.
It's down, it's up, it's good. That ball is good.
Over the past 2 seasons, our teams have jumped 6 spots in the Patriot League's President's Cup standings. Just last year, we finished 2nd in football, field hockey, and men's soccer. And
Emilia.
It was our best fall season in more than 25 years. It's only the beginning.
We want champions. We're building, climbing, developing leaders, but we want championships. 2 years ago, our friend Joe advised us.
The journey to the top of the hill begins with a single step.
We're well on our way now. Now, we
Do it! Do it! That is a triple by Jess Booth.
take.
Begins to pass out in front. Instead, it's a goal. Shot, goal, just like that.
Over.
Here's the shot. To win, maybe. Yes!
So I don't know if anyone else got that teary-eyed, heart-racing, ready to run through a wall feeling. If you've been on a sports team, you know, before you go out for that first competition or for any competition, there's the hype video that's played sometimes in the pregame meal or at some point, you know, before the game. And in a lot of ways, I feel like that's like the hype video for our athletics program. And it really gets me going and really excited to update you today on what we've been able to accomplish this year. Allison and Annette, thank you so much for your kind words and for your continuous support of Lafayette Athletics. So the Leopards are climbing the hill. When we established the strategic plan, the goal was simple: to create a championship culture, an environment with a confident expectation that we can be excellent both in the classroom and in athletic competitions and in the community as well. In particular, this championship culture would result in a sustained ability to compete effectively within the Patriot League and win championships. Last year, we saw Lafayette Athletics improve 6 places in the Patriot League President's Cup standings prior to the athletic seasons being stopped because of the global pandemic. In fact, all of our teams that were able to finish their season saw either a maintenance of place finish or significant improvement. In the fall, we saw the football team finish league play in 2nd place and earn an exciting win over Lehigh, which we all were really excited about. We also had both field hockey and men's soccer participate in the Patriot League Championship game. We had lots of alumni and students there to support our student athletes in those games. And while we were unable to capture the trophy, our teams competed and were in a position to win. We are proud of what our teams have accomplished. So let me give you an interesting fact. Fall 2019 was the best fall sports season at Lafayette in more than 25 years. And I'll run that back and I'll say it one more time because I think it's worth repeating. Fall 2019 was the best fall sports season at Lafayette in more than 25 years. For our student athletes and coaches that are listening today, and I know some of you are, you earned that for us. You put in the work. Last year, our winter sports were highlighted by women's basketball as it finished with its most league wins since the 1991-92 season. Coach Key and I are on the same page that this team has the potential to do so much more, but I am proud of the progress made. So I'm going to brag about it a little bit. I probably brag about it a lot, but it's because you can see that a championship culture is being created all around us. To add to all of the team performances that we can be proud of, we also had tremendous individual student athlete success. In football, we had the Defensive Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year. In women's soccer, the Offensive Player of the Year. And in field hockey, we had the Defensive Player of the Year, Scholar Athlete of the Year, and Coach of the Year. This signifies that our coaches are recruiting impact players, and with a strong foundation of talent, that's what makes our teams go, our teams will continue to get better. I'm also proud of the fact that as we have improved athletically, we have not taken steps backwards academically. 443 Lafayette student athletes were named to the Patriot League Academic Honor Roll, a recognition of student athletes across the league with GPAs of 3.2 or higher. Our graduation success rate ranks 7th in the country, and 15 of our 23 teams earned perfect scores. As a former student athlete and with almost 20 years in athletic administration, I know our teams deserve the highest praise, no matter what happens in the win-loss column, because they put in significant work. When we recruit future Leopards, we are looking for those who can succeed in the classroom and elevate the competitiveness of our teams. And when they've done that, how can you not support them? For that, I am committed to giving them every possible tool to achieve their goals. They deserve it. I hope you all agree with me, but we are taking those steps. We are climbing the hill. When I described the vision for Lafayette Athletics back in September of 2018, this is the progress I had in mind. The improvements we had seen did not occur without the work of our student athletes, first and foremost, our coaches, our staff, and also the members of our strategic goal implementation committees. Before I share some of the highlights of our progress, let's take a look back at our strategic goals. The first was to achieve competitive excellence. Second, to strengthen academic excellence. 3, to provide the most positive student-athlete experience possible. 4, to build more community and spirit for Lafayette Athletics. 5, to ensure integrity in everything that we do. And 6, to secure the funding necessary for success. All of our work over the last 2 years has tied back to one of those 6 goals. So I'll give you a little bit of a recap of year 1, and then I'll give you the update on year 2. In year 1 of the plan, we saw growth in coach development and the establishment of expectations and performance evaluations. We enhanced outreach and collaboration with faculty. We had greater partnership with campus organizations and education for student athletes. We increased the school spirit, and we relaunched the Leopards Lair. And we also had a focus in restructuring our efforts to increase external revenue for athletics. So in year 2, we maintained the efforts of year 1, but of course, continued to move the needle, even in a year sidetracked by COVID-19. So here are a few highlights from year 2 of the strategic plan. We continued the Coaches and Coffee professional development series with some fantastic guest speakers. We continued the work to maximize our partnership with admissions to recruit top prospects. We strengthened our leadership and career development programming. We also made significant improvements to our nutritional offerings and enhanced student-athlete wellness initiatives through the PARDS Prepcast podcast, the P3, and our SAC-led mental health initiatives, Spot the Signs and Your Roar. And I thought those initiatives were really creative, and also the names creative. We have a fairly great mascot name that can help with those creative initiatives that we have. The atmosphere at our athletic events was jump-started by the Pard Zone, another creative play on Pards, the hospitality tent. We had a whiteout game for each of our sports, which were well attended by our students in our community. And for the second year in a row, we had a fantastic basketball game with the crowd in Kirby Sports Center Arena busting at the seams with 5th and 6th graders in our school day game. And that atmosphere in that game, if you were there or if you've heard about it, you know that it was a close game. We came back, we were down by like 15 points, and those students and our fans were able to, I think, help our team get that energy and that motivation going for the victory. So those are the things that really matter, in the experiences and the kinds of experiences that we want to provide for our student athletes. We were also able to add a new position with the new Associate AD for Compliance and Student Athlete Development, Mike Chamberlain, who is here to solidify our compliance operation and to help us with our student athlete development programming. And lastly, we formalized a plan to rent our athletic facilities for additional revenue. And with the college's support, we initiated an athletics fundraising campaign. So even through a tumultuous close to the 1920 academic year, we had a successful year in fundraising, raising $1.7 million for athletics, the second highest total in recent years. And as Allison or President Byerly mentioned earlier in her remarks, just this week, we announced the receipt of a leadership gift from the Buck family to support endowments for baseball, football, and the annual fund. And we are incredibly thankful and grateful to the Buck family for that tremendous gift. We've also had others step up to provide endowment gifts, support scholarships, and donate to the Maroon Club Annual Fund so that Lafayette Athletics can continue to build on its efforts to achieve a championship culture. So there's a full publication available for you to review the details of our progress in year 1 and year 2. I just gave you some of the snippets and highlights that I thought were particularly relevant in this particular conversation. But we will share the link in the chat for the Climbing the Hill publication, which is the annual report for Lafayette Athletics. And if you click that link, you can look at last year's annual report covering the 18-19 academic year, and also see the most recent year for 1920. I'm happy with what we have done, but I am not satisfied. The job is not finished. We've set out to win championships, to build a culture, to sustain it, sending our student athletes off into the world having hoisted the trophy, maybe just once, or even more. It's our job to put the structure in place for that to happen, and we are building it brick by brick. And I'm excited. We are headed in the right direction. This is a critical time for Lafayette College and a critical time for Lafayette Athletics, as it is for many institutions across the country right now. COVID-19 has presented incredible challenges, unprecedented challenges, although I know that's an adjective that we're trying to move away from, but it's still true. It's an unprecedented time for all of us. For those who know me, you know, though, that I am a glass half full person. I am optimistic about our athletic programs and what we can accomplish. So we are not going to complain. We are not going to make excuses. We will do what we can with what we have and probably a little more. But we are striving for excellence no matter what we're doing. I hope you're motivated by that goal to strive for excellence. Kernan, I think everyone at Lafayette knows what that means, but why not? Why not have it be Lafayette that sets the standard for excellence in academics and athletics? Why not have Lafayette be the preferred destination for talented student athletes? We believe it, and we are getting student athletes to commit and attend Lafayette that believe it too and want to be a part of our culture. It's a beautiful thing. But without competition this fall, our teams are still competing, challenging themselves every single day to get better and to stay ready for when it's time to hopefully play again. And I know that day will come soon. As we delivered seemingly difficult news to our student athletes and coaches over the last several months, I have admired their resiliency and stick-to-itiveness, truly embodying the core values of Leopards, and that's what they've done. Our coaches and staff have focused on ways to keep our student athletes engaged and continue to coach them. I believe these efforts were just as important to our student athletes as it is to our coaches. For all of us, student athletes, coaches, and administrators, athletic participation and commitment to sport has been at the core of our existence and is part of who we all are. Not being able to see teammates, or as one coach put it, not blowing a whistle in months is really, really tough. We have been fortunate to have the expertise and availability of Dr. Julia Amato to counsel our student athletes through these challenging times. As a sports psychologist, she has worked with our teams over the last several years and is vital to our support structure. From our coaches to the strength and conditioning staff, to our academic support personnel, to our compliance staff, to our leadership team, we have maintained our ability to support and counsel and coach our student athletes and stay connected with them even in these difficult situations. Whether they are actually here on campus with us, and we do have some, or at home, our student athletes are training, they're working on technique, they're game planning with their coaches, they are still getting better. And I'm really proud of them for their efforts in being able to do that and to stay resilient and to stay focused. And all that is going on nationally has not deterred us, whether it's COVID-19 itself, which is a major deal, or the constant reminders of systemic racism and the inequities for Black people in America. We are using it as a way to come together as a community. From voting initiatives to the formation of an athletes of color organization, our student athletes, our coaches, our staff have found a way to learn, to grow, to have a positive impact during this time. So I know my remarks so far have not addressed some of the burning questions that you all have about what's happening in terms of the timing of returning to play. Trust me, I would like answers to those questions as well. As Power 5 conferences that originally decided not to play have changed course, or the NCAA announcing the start date for men's and women's basketball last week, to even just recently today, I feel like, you know, there's something announced every single day that increases the hope and optimism that's out there. So I know it's there, but the Patriot League and Lafayette need to work together, and we need to be looking at our decision making to announce plans to resume at some point. While we would all prefer clear and swift information about what the future might hold, there are complexities and time needed to work through those decisions at every level. The Patriot League ADs, the Committee on Athletic Administration, and the Council of Presidents have meetings scheduled in the coming weeks to discuss possible basketball start dates, the status of other winter sports, and what can the fall sports season look like in the spring. And as the Patriot League and Lafayette have continued to do from the beginning, the health and safety of our student athletes and the entire community will be at the forefront of our decision making. And as those decisions come to light, we will deliver updates to our Leopard family, and that includes all of you. We are as excited as you are to see our teams back out there competing. With that momentum that we saw last year, you must know that I am as anxious as it comes to see our student athletes out there giving their opponents more than they can handle, quite frankly. From last minute goals to buzzer beaters to photo finishes to game winning field goals, and hopefully some blowouts too. I can't wait to see it all again, especially with Lafayette in the win column. Whenever that time comes, we'll be ready. So I hope I have conveyed to you the pride I have in Lafayette athletics. Please join us in our continuous climb up that hill. I hope you are with us. But here's someone that I know is with us, who's gonna help us with the next section of our event today. I've had the pleasure to get to know both Bill and Barb Tucker because they are present. If there's an Lafayette event, I kinda expect to see them there. No pressure, but you guys are awesome. To lead us through the Q&A, I'll now turn things over to our Maroon Club president, Bill Tucker.
Thank you, Sharita. Let me get masked up here. Hold on. There we go. All right. So before we start with the Q&A, I just want to remind everybody that you too can look just like this. Not like this, but like this with the mask. If you can show your spot. So far, we have 123 donors, and that's in just a week. We've raised $19,000 in just a week. Holy Cross, one of our Patriot League peers, raised almost $33,000. So we still have 26 days left to go soaring past that. So again, the link is, I think Scott just posted it in the chat section. So please make your donation. And I'm telling you, it's very comfortable. You'll enjoy it. It's a great mask. So, and now I'll take it off. so you can hear me and see me, which the mask may be better. So couple things real quick. So for formatting, for optimal viewing, you might want to change the speaker view right now. It's strongly recommended. It'll give you a better perspective. To ensure the best experience, everybody's been muted. And then please utilize the chat or the raise your hand feature, which can be found by the participants. When you're called upon, your mic will be unmuted. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go through some of the questions that came in advance first. And if you have other questions, please put them through in the chat room, and through the miracle of chat and text message, I will ask those as well. So to start, there were a number of questions on the topic of return to play. Sharita just covered that extensively in her remarks, so we're going to move on with other questions. Obviously, if there's some other things you have concerns about, please put those in. So our first question is actually directed to our spectacular chairman of the board of trustees, Mr. Bob Sell. So Bob, what are your thoughts about the current direction of Lafayette athletics, COVID aside, and what can we as alumni do to help climb the hill?
Well, thank you, Bill. And that obviously didn't come from your lovely wife, Barb, because that's too easy a question, and she's known for asking some tougher ones. At first, I'd say thanks for all joining. I think we're up to 183 folks. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting all of you. I know many of you, and I wish I had the time to call out some of you that I see on screen here, what you're wearing, your reactions to certain of the comments. I'd like to kind of rib you or poke you a little bit, but we don't have the time, and there's a lot of questions. For those that don't know me, I'm proud to say I've been, in my 58 years, I've been to 55 Lafayette Lehigh games. As a youngster, I was in Dr. Tom Davis's basketball camp. I don't think Jay Mottola was my camp counselor, but I'll come back to him in a second. But I was the Maroon Club president during the infamous Division I, Division III kind of experience, and that was my introduction to my phone ringing off the hook from vested alums. That was many months of many phone calls after long days of work. I was then the president of the Alumni Association, have had the good fortune to be on the board, and am now the chair. I'm a guy that really enjoys athletics at Lafayette. It's been a big part of my life. I have a lot of family that went to Lafayette. I had a cousin that is named Eric Marsh, who played on the football team in the mid-90s when we were really quite good, and he was a two-time Lehigh game MVP, which was a highlight for our whole family. So I have the background. I have a Dick Hammer WEST radio loop in my head. I can't forget his wonderful voice. I can't forget Jim Finnan's wonderful voice, and I've heard it throughout my life. So there should be no question the chair appreciates the athletic side of the student experience at Lafayette, and it's important as an offering that the college provides. I've actually, Bill, to the question, I've been heartened by the progress, whether it was football, soccer, field hockey, and the progress they made, winning records in the league that some of the other sports had made. I do really believe that in addition to those 3 second-place finishes, we probably had a fall in 19 across the board that was the best ever, and to increase 6 places. I remember when Sharita did the launch of the strategy, she actually showed some of the positioning that we've been in for the last several years. And it's horrific to see where we had been and what we had, if you will, let happen. So I've been quite heartened by it. I would say, and I think you guys know this, there's not a lot in life right now that many people are happy with. Just to be blunt. There's somebody angry about almost anything. And you can win or lose on any decision, think you're doing the right thing, and you're still just going to get clobbered with all kinds of input. So I give a lot of credit to the administration under Allison's leadership. You have, by the way, 25% of the board of trustees is on this call. I've gone around and counted them. I thank them all for joining this. So if you think it's a group of people that's not connected, you'd just be wrong. 25% of the board is on this call. 25% of the board is spending the time to understand. I see faculty, I see other folks. There's a real vestment across the Lafayette community from places I don't think everyone really appreciates. And the stress and the pressure to not have a fall season, to play fall sports in spring, to get back to the things that we all want to get back to, that pressure is just tremendous. and it's not ignored, and it's not dismissed. And we believe it to be fundamentally a core part of a student's experience at Lafayette. 25% of our kids are Division I athletes. We still field 23 Division I sports for the smallest school in the league. And we always try and have always tried to be bigger than who we are, to play bigger than our size, to commit more to effectively running all of our departments, all of our academic offerings, and certainly all of our athletic offerings. So these are very difficult times. There's still some difficult decisions ahead. I've been heartened by the progress. I'd throw it back. I'm sure there's some other tougher questions, Bill, but you have a very engaged board. You have a very engaged president of the college. You have a very engaged leadership team with Annette and Sharita. I think the coaches are great. I like seeing our coach Garrett raising his hand to that Lafayette Lehigh win. I remember seeing him at the holiday party just a month after that win. And I said, do you see what winning one game does? Just one game. Do you see what it does? I mean, the guy, he was still excited from that win. It was game changing, fundamental. And I think that helped continue a propulsion of competition. Anyone that's played sports at a high school or college level knows that it feeds off itself, and success begets more success. The fact that we've had a damn pandemic in the middle of our climb the hill here, it's unfortunate, but we'll get through it. We'll trooper on, and I appreciate that there's now 185 folks on here. I guess somebody heard I was ranting and raving, so 2 more folks joined. So God bless you all. And Bill, back to you. I agree with Jeff. You look better with the mask on, and what happened to all the hair?
So before we move on, I do want to, Bob, thank you for being on the call today, and obviously for your tremendous support. Your points were spot on, and you know, we recognize how critical the experience is for student athletes on our campus, and I appreciate your remarks and your words in support of that. I appreciate it.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Thank you, Sharita, and thank you, Bob. I appreciate it. He's at 1-800-BOB if you need to get a hold of him. He's easily reachable. But to echo Bob's sentiments, there's 185 people on this call because 185 people and a lot more care. And so I can't thank you all for being here. And we're going to go through some of the questions here and try and address some of your concerns. So Sharita, the next question up here is, have fall athletes lost a year of eligibility since the Patriot League doesn't permit redshirting and Lafayette College has no grad programs?
Sure, Bill. So one of the things that I'll start with is to say the Patriot League doesn't have redshirting in the way that many understand it. But the Patriot League does have bylaws for relief for circumstances outside of the control of the student athlete that protects their eligibility. And COVID-19 fits that category. So similar to the relief that we were able to provide for our student athletes in the spring, our student athletes do have the flexibility to work through their own unique circumstances to make the best academic decision with athletic considerations as well. So the relief that's given is similar to that of a medical hardship. So as long as the student athlete has an academic reason to stay here beyond their 4 years of enrollment, we could welcome them back and have the latitude within the Patriot League guidance to be able to support them in that endeavor.
Okay, thank you. Next question. I'm sure a lot of people have questions about, are there any ongoing discussions about eliminating any athletic programs? I know people have seen a lot of that happening across the country at various schools. So.
Yeah, and I think it's been unfortunate. It's definitely pretty telling and eye-opening and grounding to understand the magnitude of what COVID-19 has done. And some have certainly been prompted to possibly make decisions that they had been thinking about already in light of the financial challenges. But for us, I would say not at this time. So almost 3 years ago now, we conducted a study of our athletic programs to make that assessment to determine whether we had the right number of sports sponsored. And coming out of that review, it was clear that there would be minimal financial gains from eliminating programs. And while it's important for us to continue to review financial implications and challenges for our department, especially in these times, Eliminating opportunities for student athletes to compete is not a priority of mine at this point in time, but obviously it's something that we'll always have to pay attention to, but there are no ongoing discussions about that at this moment.
All right. Next question is, what communication have we had with student athletes who chose to defer for either the fall semester or for the entire year?
So I think in athletics, we are in a unique position where we get to know our student athletes a lot through the recruiting process. We get to know them personally, we get to know their families, and so there's a deep connection. And so for those who have chosen to defer for either the fall or for the entire year, communication is ongoing between those student athletes and the coaches and their teammates themselves. So those opportunities, whether it be to jump on the team Zoom calls for their ongoing education, if they're talking about game planning, if they are talking about technique, all of those things, our committed student athletes, whether they are deferred or for a semester or for the year, they can still participate and have been participating in those conversations and those communications.
Okay. And again, remember, if you have other questions, please put them in the chat or use the raise your hand feature and we can unmute you through the wizard of Scott Morse, who can do just about anything. All right, next question. Have we considered an indoor facility for basketball, indoor track, etc., that could possibly be shared with the city of Easton?
So actually, one of the things that I can share is that last year we began exploring options for an indoor facility to provide additional practice space and opportunity for our student athletes indoors, but also to serve as a revenue generator for athletics. So those conversations are ongoing. Certainly cannot share many of the details related to that, but first and foremost, we would want to make sure that in these times with financial challenges that we have the framework and the structure for that to be a revenue generating opportunity first and foremost, but also hopefully to be able to take advantage of that opportunity to provide additional indoor space for our student athletes moving forward.
All right, thank you. What are the plans for increasing student attendance at games of all sports once we can get everybody back in the seats at the sports?
Yeah, and Bill, I think you've been there to be able to see some of the things we have been able to do already, and we'll certainly continue some of the efforts we've already started to make and build upon those. And that is one of the strategic goals in our plan. So we're definitely focused on it. But first and foremost, we had the whiteout games this year, which certainly increased attendance. We were giving out free T-shirts and tossing them into the stands, and I think our students generally really appreciate that. And our student athletes who have been the athletic affairs arm of student government and really getting the ball rolling in terms of planning the marketing efforts with respect to the whiteout games, kind of manning the event itself and making sure that we had student participation. So their work has been tremendous in increasing student attendance at our games. The Leopards Lair that started actually in 1819, and we were able to continue that for this year, just kind of creating that student section atmosphere and wanting them to be excited and to have their student section leaders and people who could help in that effort. We really saw, I think, an increase of enthusiasm and energy in the student section. And then the other thing too, and I'll give our ticket manager, but also our head cheer coach, I'll give her a lot of credit for this, but we had increased coordination with our band, cheer, and dance teams in terms of coordinating their performances and how they're actually set up in our arena or in the stadium. I think their coordination has enabled us to have an enhanced atmosphere as well. So a lot of effort and work being done by tons of people on the staff, but in particular our student athletes, I think, have really taken a leadership role in trying to get their fellow classmates excited about Lafayette athletics.
Thanks, and I agree. I've been to enough events, and certainly my experience at the Easton School Day was one of the most memorable events of last year. We won right at the buzzer. It was just fantastic. So if people have never been to that, make sure you get to that event as well as some other ones. It's a great event.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bill. That was one of my favorite events. It's one of my favorite events throughout the year. But for it to be able to do it the past 2 seasons, and the first year with women's basketball and last year with men's basketball, to have all of those kids here, and we provided a clinic in the beginning, in the morning before the actual game, and then they come in and they have lunch, and they are watching our team warm up, and the other team doesn't know what hit them as they're walking in, and they see all of these 5th and 6th graders running around. It's a pretty awesome atmosphere. But to actually have those kids, I think, impact what's happening on the court is pretty phenomenal. So hopefully we'll be able to continue that tradition.
Great. Try and get through as many more as we can in the 10 minutes we have left. So is there any relationship between our attempts to climb the hill in athletics and our recent decline in overall academic ratings and recognition?
Yeah, I think what I'm going to dispute that there's been a decline in our overall academic ratings and recognition, but I will speak specifically to what we've been doing in athletics. In fact, we've continued to see a strong performance of our student athletes on the Patriot League Honor Roll, which I mentioned earlier, which is a recognition of those student athletes who have achieved a 3.0 GPA or higher. So last year we had 334 student athletes, and this year we had 443. So that number is actually going up. And also, as I mentioned in my remarks earlier, we were 7th in the nation in the graduation success rate. The other thing I'll mention too, just in terms of the on the admissions front, but also on the performance of our student athletes in terms of their GPA. Each year, we have different committees across campus, some involving the faculty or some involving other units on campus that are reviewing our academic performance data to make sure that we are taking steps back from an academic performance standpoint. So I'm happy to share that we've been able to share that information to show that our academic performance is not going down as a result of increased athletic competitiveness.
Okay, great. Does Lafayette have FCS level football in its long-term vision?
Oh man, these are tough.
When are we playing Notre Dame?
So we compete at the FCS level now, and I don't see that being adjusted in any way. I'm not sure where that question is leading, but I'll answer it this way. Our football program has a wonderful history and tradition, and we are slowly regaining our winning ways, and really proud of Coach Garrett and his entire team and his entire staff for what they've been able to accomplish over the last 3 years. And really, I feel like our team is right on the cusp of doing great things, winning a championship. They were right there last year. So for me, we're excited and certainly have football in our long-term vision for the future of Lafayette.
That's great. Few more. This one is maybe for everyone. How do you feel Lafayette athletics will do coming out of the tumultuous times of the coronavirus financially and culturally?
It's a good question. And I think we're still learning as we're going through this. One of the things that, for me, I'm learning a lot, and, for an unprecedented time where, my mentors and colleagues in the athletics world, for other things. I mean, it could be any number of things that may have been a first for me. I can pick up the phone and say, hey, how did you handle this particular situation? When it comes to the coronavirus, I can't pick up the phone and call any of them and say, how did you handle this? Because we're all going through this together. So I think for me personally, and I think for all of us, whether it be our coaches, our staff, and our student athletes, we're learning a lot about ourselves. We're learning how to be resilient. We're learning how to stay motivated, stay focused, even when there are lots of distractions and pauses in athletic play. And, how do you deal with the challenges of the day? How do you deal with, things that maybe you want to be a certain way and those things get derailed. But we also have tremendous opportunities to engage in some things that maybe we haven't been able to engage or spend as much time on in the past. So whether that's engaging with our alumni, having more calls like this, certainly the virtual platform has allowed us to connect with more people. Hopefully we can continue to share the story, and as well as the needs for athletics in terms of the specifics, in terms of how people can support our athletic programs. I hope for those that are on the call today and others that will, tune in and listen to what we've discussed here today, I hope people are motivated to be interested to understand more about how they can help, whether it be a particular sport program or whether it be the athletics department overall in general in terms of supporting the Maroon Club annual fund. So we need to be thinking about that. Hopefully we can continue our development of additional ways to increase our revenue. Obviously, once we get to a point where we can open up our campus a little bit more, those rental opportunities will be great for us, and as well as other projects and partnerships that we've already laid the foundation for. And then also too, I think developing personally and professionally. I was talking to one of our coaches just yesterday, and he was like, I've not had this time to spend with family, or to read this book, or watch this video or this podcast. And so I think this time has allowed our staff, our coaches, and our student athletes to develop in ways that maybe they haven't been able to do during a fall semester, where they're typically playing games on Saturdays and traveling and getting back really early in the morning on a Sunday. So I think Lafayette Athletics we're trying to, and hopefully we'll be successful at positioning ourselves to be better when we come out of this time, and that's the goal.
Great. Thank you very much for that answer. I'm going to go, let me see, we got a lot of questions. Take one from the, that's coming in. So there's been several questions about how scholarship sports are chosen, and if there's any thoughts around adding scholarships in sports that don't currently offer them.
It's a good question, and certainly something we think about. We certainly desire to be able to provide scholarship opportunities for as many student athletes as possible. It does help in the recruiting process in terms of the competitiveness with other institutions. But for right now, the scholarship programs have been established. They were established long before I got here in terms of which teams would be in that place. But we do have our sights set on and some internal conversations and goals in terms of where we'd like to be in terms of scholarship offerings for the future. And hopefully we can come out of this COVID time with some momentum and be able to increase the support for our coaches and our teams in the coming years. Right now, we are dealing with the financial challenges of where we are, but certainly I'm optimistic that we will get out of that time and we'll be able to be back on track with some of our scholarship goals for the future.
Great. A little birdie told me that, Allison, you wanted to make a comment on the academic question, so let me turn it over to you.
Sure. Scott Morse dropped me a note and said, "You're not going to let anybody get away with that, are you?" The comment about academic quality and declining, I think, has to be addressed. Nothing could be farther from the truth. We have never had stronger students than we have today. All of the metrics that we use to measure student quality and performance have gone up over the last 4 years during the time that we've been focusing on growing the size of the student body and increasing affordability, because offering more financial aid allows us to bring stronger students. Similarly, the caliber of our faculty has never been higher. We have done some extraordinary hires over the last few years, have wonderful faculty, and so could not be prouder of the caliber of our faculty. US News does not look at the actual quality of those things. They look at how much you spend on them. And so the main thing that affected our US News rankings this year, we dropped one space. Our score was pretty much the same, but others shifted around, so we dropped one space. The main place where our score went down was in expenditures on financial resources and expenditures per student. This is not an accident. This is actually a consequence of our affordability and distinction through growth plan, which is premised on the idea that we can become more efficient as an institution by growing the size of the student body, hence spending less per student, hence being able to redirect funds towards financial aid. And so unfortunately, US News considered it bad that we were being fiscally prudent and actually more effective with our resources, and downgraded us a bit on that. But I can say that the academic caliber of Lafayette has never been higher. It's never been harder to get into Lafayette. And I think anyone who spent time on campus talking to our students know that they are absolutely top-notch.
That's great. But with two graduates, aside from myself and Barb, they did quite well, and they're a lot smarter than they were when they got there, so we're good. The same birdie also told me that Mr. Benjamin would like some screen time, so if we could, Scott, I'll let you flip over to him somehow. Possible.
My screen time is going to be cut in half, because the first thing I was going to do was ask Allison to address that issue. Thank you, Allison. That was one of 2 points I would like to make. The second one would be to Coach Shrita. If you can, I think it would be valuable to look through the chat. There have been a number of comments that I think would be worth sort of spending some time on, and questions that I think are really worthy of being answered. If we could do it, over the course of X amount of time and get back to all of the respondents, everybody that had a positive response to attend, I think that would be really helpful. And I think, deserving of some time by the athletics leadership group to address some of those questions, because I think they're very thoughtful, and I think that kind of insight would be very helpful for the folks that have posed them. So thank you.
Jim, I appreciate that, and we will certainly have our team pull them off of the chat, and hopefully we can, I think we have email addresses for everyone, so even if we are answering them individually or answering them in some collective document, we certainly would be happy to do that, and that is a great suggestion, so thank you.
And Jim, I appreciate it, because I was going to say the same. We're going to get through, I've got 3 more we'll get through, otherwise we could probably do this all night, right? So let me get through the final 3. I've got a couple I'm pulling off of here, couple that were sent in, and then we'll make sure we get answers back to everybody. So Sheree, the next one of the questions that came in advance, does the Patriot League have plans for member growth, especially institutions that play football?
Yeah, and I think that's a good question. One of the things that we recognize is that having 7 schools is probably not a sustainable number for the future. But we are very careful and certainly very particular about the kinds of institutions that we could welcome into our realm. And so I would say that right now we have more than enough institutions to have our Patriot League seasons, but if there were interest or an opportunity to look at that in the future, I think we'd be open to that conversation.
Perfect, great. Let me see. So let me take one that came in, and again, there's a lot on the chat room, right? So I'll try and go through a couple more. Then
yeah, and I appreciate all the questions. I mean, that's good. I appreciate the interest that our participants are showing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to get to all of them, but as I mentioned, or as Jim suggested, and as I commented, we'll do our best to try to get back to everyone.
Yeah, so we'll try and tackle 2 more. So one of these, they said it's hard to understand how a school like BC can be back and playing sports and Lafayette can't. How can the ACC with bigger schools able to do what Lafayette and the Patriot League cannot? So again, I think that's a question we got from a lot of people on here too. Why are we different than everybody else? Yeah, and I think that what from our league, our presidents made a collective decision about how we were going to handle our fall sports seasons in this moment. And I think that was done with obviously with health and safety in mind, with a focus on opening our institutions in the fall in mind. And that's certainly important to the priorities of each of the institutions. We still have institutions within our league, like Army and Navy, that are still playing. So I know it's not the same everywhere, but certainly for the Patriot League, that was the decision we felt was in the best interest for the institutions involved, and certainly for our student athletes involved in that moment in time. Perfect. We'll take one more here, then we'll let everybody get to their business. So how is the impact of the Friends of organizations affecting the overall athletics budget? How is that expanding the overall spend? And there was a lot of questions on the chat room about the budgets and how we're doing and transparency, things like that.
Okay. The Friends of groups are tremendous assets to what we do in athletics. And I apologize that I don't have the context from the chats. So if I'm not answering the question, you can feel free to rephrase it. But what our alumni and former student athletes and others that support our Friends groups allow our teams to do is to be able to operate our athletic programs in the best way possible, and they do help bolster our athletic budgets so that they can travel, so that they can provide those resources that are necessary for our teams to operate.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Well, we've gone about 5 minutes over, and again, we could probably do this for hours, right? But why don't we do this? I'm going to put a wrap on this, and if someone else wants to add something, they can. I just want to remind everybody that Next Wednesday, September 30th, there's an alumni town hall. I think Allison will be hosting that runs from 4:30 to 6. The registration link was in the chat. I think you've also got emails on it. You can certainly find it on the website. I can't tell you how much I appreciate. I don't know where the final number was, but if we were 185 or more, the fact that you all came on board and took time to be with us today, as I said before, shows how much you cared. I think Coach Sell has us ready to go run out and just do whatever we need to do to make things perfect. And I'm sure things will be back to normal. Things will get better. Sharita, I guess I can turn over to you if you want to close with your final words, but that's all for me. And I can't thank everybody enough for joining the call.
Bill, I echo your sentiments. I thank everyone for being on the call today. I certainly enjoy the opportunity to provide updates and to be able to answer the questions that have been delivered to us today. I look forward to the opportunity to share more again. Thank you for your support of Lafayette Athletics and of Lafayette College, and go Leopards.
Bye, everybody. Good luck. Stay healthy. See you all soon.